All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started as people continue to trickle in. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lindsay Schofield. I'm a senior transportation planner with the Division of Transportation Planning in the Department of Infrastructure. I'm joined with our other colleagues in transportation planning, Director of Transportation Planning, Michael Manzella, and Senior Transportation Planner, Elias Guzman. Also, Jennifer Wong, Director of Traffic Engineering, is listening in on this meeting as well tonight. And I'll let the NYU folks introduce themselves in just a second. I wanted to welcome everyone to the workshop. We're really excited to have your feedback on the Greenway connectivity plan. And I wanted to also set the stage that we're working with a group of graduate students from NYU Wagner. And we're really fortunate to have a really engaged and talented group of students who are working with us and supporting this plan. As we have been doing more work around planning and designing greenways and seeking funding for greenways, we've encountered a lot of areas and elements that we could use more engagement and feedback from the public. So we're really excited about you all taking time out of your schedule to be a part of the process. And I will turn it over to Dominic to kick us off tonight.
All right, again, thank you everyone for taking the time out of your day. My name is Dominic Sinkowski. I'm one of the members of the NYU team facilitating the workshop today. Before I get into it, if I could just ask one of my fellow co-hosts to handle the folks coming through the waiting room, I would really appreciate that. So yes, this is one of the first of two public workshops that we're going to be holding about the Greenway connectivity plan. The first one, is today. The second one is going to be an in-person open house style workshop happening on March 2nd, where participants could come and go anytime during the 2 hours it's scheduled on that day. So before we begin, I just wanted to go over a few things so that we can all be heard in a timely manner that respects everyone's schedules. So I just ask that everyone, unless you're speaking, please keep on mute so we can minimize any background noise. We'll pause for questions at several points during the introductory presentation. So just know that if you have clarifying questions you want to ask, you'll have that opportunity. Everyone will have a chance to speak during the breakout activity that we have planned for today. And if you have more to say, if you have further questions, or maybe you have to leave during the meeting, there are several avenues that you can learn more. You can give comments, you can ask questions. Our project website is at tinyurl.com/JCGCP23. You can also take our online survey, which is hosted on that website. You can attend the in-person workshop happening on March 2nd. If you have any comments or questions, you can submit them to mobility@jcnj.org. If you don't want an email, there's also a comment form at tinyurl.com/JCDCP-comment. You can also sign up for updates at tinyurl.com/Greenway contact. And if I could have one of my colleagues put those links into the chat as well, that would be really great. And once again, I'd like to thank you for coming to today's workshop.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was my email address. I think I was hacked, so I would have to log out and log in again. I'm sorry, that wasn't me.
No problem. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, so just to move on then to the workshop agenda. So just very briefly, first we're going to give a little bit of background on the project, introducing the project partners and a little bit of the context that brought us to where we are today. Second, we'll delve a little bit more into what the Greenway connectivity plan is. So just to bring everyone up to speed, a little introduction to what greenways are, the kinds of greenway connections that we're planning, and the goals of the breakout session that we have for you all today. And then after the breakout activity itself, we'll conclude with next steps of the Greenway connectivity plan. So I'll just get right into it. So the project background. First, I'm going to introduce the project partners. So earlier you heard from Lindsay Schofield from Jersey City Department of Infrastructure, Division of Transportation Planning. They are they're the first project partner. And then the second project partner is the capstone team represented by myself, Gav, Jess, and Ben, who are taking part of what the NYU Wagner School calls its capstone project. If you'll excuse me, I just need to take a quick drink of water. Okay, so just a little bit more background on the Division of Transportation Planning. BTP oversees short and long-term transportation planning and ongoing programs like bike share and microtransit. Their past work also includes things like the 2018 Pedestrian Enhancement Plan, the 2019 Bike Master Plan, the 2019 Vision Zero Action Plan, the 2019 Safe Routes to School Active Travel Plan, and multiple Complete Streets initiatives. And second, the NYU Capstone team. So me and a team of 4 other graduate students, 3 of which are on the line today, are participating in what NYU Wagner calls the Capstone Project, which is a culminating learning experience and opportunity for urban planning graduate students to apply their skills in a real-world context for clients. And for one academic year, student teams address challenges, solve problems, and identify opportunities through research design, stakeholder engagement, and data collection and analysis. And with that, I'm just going to pause for a moment if anyone has, for a few questions, if anyone has questions on the project partners. And if you'd like to ask a question, you could use the raise hand function, you could come off of mute, or put it in the chat. All right, so seeing as there's none, just if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, but I'm going to move on. Oh, sorry, I see a hand from Ray Ramones. You can come off of mute, please.
Hey, I was just curious if you have an example in mind of an NYU capstone project that we may see in New York City today.
While I don't have it off the top of my head, I believe the NYU Wagner School does maintain a list of prior capstone projects because they are, how do I put this? Like because they are client projects for a variety of different clients. They might not all be public in nature, but they do share the titles.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I'll surf around on the website and see if I come across that.
Oh, and I believe Lindsay just shared a link actually to that as well.
Perfect.
And then, okay, I see another question in the chat from, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Cassia. Is what you ultimately propose likely to be implemented, or is this more of a thought experiment? Maybe I could pass this to someone from Jersey City.
Sure, I can speak to this. This is definitely something that we're interested in having implemented. As you'll see, and especially in the final report with a lot of the details, a lot of the greenways are in various stages of completion. And so some of them may take a long while, many, many years to come to complete fruition. But we want to advance as many as we can in the shorter term and start thinking and building out some of those connections, knowing they're coming. But ultimately, we want to put into the plan things that we think could actually exist and be implemented by our division or our partners sometime in the future.
Yeah, and this is Mike Manzella. If I could just add, I think, one of the goals of this plan that we develop collectively is to identify opportunities where grant funding can be applied for, particularly with the new federal funding through the IIJ, the bipartisan infrastructure law. There is a lot of opportunity to fund sort of non-traditional transportation modes. So we're really excited about, kind of connecting the various greenways through grant opportunities as well.
All right, thank you for those questions. I'm going to move on, but if you do have more questions, feel free to put them in the chat and one of our team will be able to respond to you. So moving on to a little bit more of the project context and how we got to where we are. In 2019, Jersey City adopted its Bike Master Plan, and it's a blueprint for street design and other recommendations to make cycling a viable and enjoyable transportation option for people of all ages and abilities. And its goals included an expansion of the bikeway network such that 100% of Jersey City residents would be within a quarter mile of bikeways, and to increase biking as a share of all trips in Jersey City by 400% by 2026. And how this ties to greenways in Jersey City. the 2019 Bike Master Plan also envisioned a citywide network of greenways. And I said we'll go into more detail about what greenways are, but for now, greenways are shared on and or off-street walking and biking paths. So for example, if you've ever been on the Hudson River waterfront in Jersey City, that's a good example of one kind of greenway. And the Bike Master Plan, as was alluded to earlier, was built upon greenway plans from prior decades. And the map you're seeing on your screen right now contains, some of that as well as existing greenways. So in green, you'll see greenways that currently exist. In yellow and orange, those are segments that are currently under construction, and in red are proposed greenways. And I'll pause once more for if anyone has any questions about the context that led us to where we are today.
For questions about, I guess, things that were considered when creating this Bike Master Plan, is it best to direct those to the Department of Infrastructure?
I'll let Jersey City take that.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, you go ahead, Lindsay.
I was just going to say, yes, this is a plan that our division is ultimately tasked with helping to implement in partnership with our other divisions in infrastructure, like engineering and traffic engineering. Anything
Okay,
else?
great. I think I'll close the loop with you offline. I'm representing the Lafayette Neighborhood Association. So on the map, that's the Communipal area that we see here.
I see there's another question from Maureen Crowley. Can you define green to also include flora? So we're certainly, and maybe Jersey City can expand on this a little bit more, but certainly some of the greenway alignments that we're considering will definitely pass through, areas where there's flora and fauna considerations as well.
Definitely, and we would look to our other citywide goals around sustainability and resiliency, which definitely incorporate native planting and shade trees and things of that nature. So we would be looking to partner with and get the advice and advisory opinions of other stakeholders within the city as well as the community.
All right. Unless anyone else has any additional questions, we're going to move on to the next phase of the presentation. Oh, I see there's several questions coming through the chat. I'm going to read the first. From Adam Cohen, is the intent to have all of these greenways connect to each other? I see a gap between the proposed Hackensack River Greenway near Croxton and what appears to be the Bergen Arches Greenway. Perhaps the connection could use one of the streets that connects to both greenways. So initially I can say that the intent isn't, certainly we're not trying to have all of the greenways connect to all of the greenways, because I mean, you can, as you might imagine, geographically that wouldn't necessarily make sense for all of them, but we're certainly welcoming contributions from the public in terms of ideas where these connections might go, and I'll let Jersey City expand on that if they'd wish to further.
Yeah, I think overall, we would like you to sort of be able to traverse all the greenways and kind of get to one another. So we do envision that example that you shared, Adam, of closing that gap in particular, and then you could kind of use the other greenways to connect to other greenways. But I think, yeah, that's sort of as much connectivity as we can, but we are also wanting to prioritize the connections that we're exploring through this study.
Yeah, and if I could just add real quick, Lindsay, great. I think, sort of our intent behind starting this partnership with NYU Wagner was to identify some of the gaps that we saw in the connectivity, both between neighborhoods and the proposed and in progress greenways, and sort of between them. So that's exactly the point of this plan and engaging all of you in this process.
All right. I'm going to read one more question before moving on. Rick Martinez asks, will there be opportunities for a local New Jersey college or university students to participate in this research? And I'll pass that to Jersey City.
We are definitely open to everyone participating. We have not specifically reached out to local colleges and universities, but we are trying to spread the word and have folks participate where they can in the process. So whether that's attending these meetings or reaching out to our department to have a session separately or participating in the survey, we're definitely interested in the perspectives of all of those stakeholders, and particularly students and others in the community of different ages and different parts of the city as well.
All right. I'm going to move the presentation forward. I know there's additional material in the chat if other team members could address, but in the interest of time, let's move forward. I'm going to pass it to, I believe, Ben, who's going to be facilitating a little icebreaker activity so we can get to know folks a little bit better.
Hi, everyone. So we just wanted to take a moment to hear from you. We wanted to hear what some of your favorite places to visit in Jersey City are, and how you get there, either destinations that you like to visit, or there are specific places you commute to if you bike or walk or get there other ways. We have a few minutes for people to share, and you can also share in the chat as well if you'd like. So I'm seeing the chat fill up with responses, and that's great. So you can keep those rolling in, and otherwise, I think we could probably move on.
All right, I'm going to advance the slide deck, but as Ben mentioned, feel free to continue contributing those locations. But I'm going to pass it to our next speaker to talk about more about the Jersey City Greenway Connectivity Plan. Ben, I believe this might be you.
Oh, sorry about that. Jersey City Transportation Planning and NYU have partnered to create the Jersey City Greenway Connectivity Plan. So this will be a high-level plan that will envision how Jersey City's proposed and existing greenways can connect to each other, as well as to neighborhood bike lanes and sidewalks and parks. These connections will turn isolated paths into a cohesive greenway network. On the slide, you can see our project timeline. So last fall, the Jersey City and NYU teams were engaged in research and data collection. Right now, we're in the midst of public engagement efforts, and today's virtual meeting is the first of 2 public workshops. And next, we'll move on to data analysis and Greenway connection assessment. And the Greenway connectivity plan will be released sometime in late spring. And now I'm going to pass on to Gav.
With that in mind, let's define greenways with a little more detail. They're multi-use on or off-street paths, which can be used for both transportation and recreation purposes. They can be built on underutilized or repurposed land, and they can also serve as corridors between neighborhoods, cities, and regions for people and wildlife. And here are some photos of greenways that currently exist in Jersey City. Some parks on greenways you might recognize a few: Berry Lane Park, Liberty State Park, Lincoln Park, Society Hill, and yeah, later in our jam break, we'll definitely point out some others.
Great. So now we wanted to take a quick poll now that we, saw some images of some greenways, and we wanted to hear from you about your experience with greenways. So please take a moment to answer the following poll, which asks, have you used one of Jersey City's existing greenways? What did you like about it? And how often have you used it? So we'll take a few moments to answer those questions. You could also enter your answers in the chat if you're having a hard time with the polls. So we're seeing some answers coming in. So far, most have used a greenway in Jersey City. Just give it a few more moments. Okay, so gonna end the poll now.
Dang.
All right, so are you able to see the results? So it seems like most answered yes to using a greenway. In Jersey City, a few times a week. It's the dispersed, as well as like with months, some never. And we'll certainly assess the answers to your short answer questions later. So stop sharing that. Great, so can move on. So now that we've discussed greenways and we're more familiar with if we've used greenways in Jersey City or not, you might be asking, like, what is the connectivity portion of the Greenway connectivity plan? And so on this slide, you could see the kinds of connections that this plan will be focusing on. One of them being inter-Greenway connections, and the second one, Greenway access points. And so inter-Greenway connections are essentially how greenways will link to one another, so from Greenway to Greenway. And the second, Greenway access points, will be how greenways connect to the existing street grid, or to a park per se. And again, these will be access points to how people will enter these greenways and use them. So with that being said, I'll pause for a minute for a few questions. Oh, saw that the poll ended. Sorry about the poll ending promptly.
Hey, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious, when it comes to Greenway connections, if there are a set of conditions the team is working off of when considering and planning the connection points.
Yeah, so maybe my teammates could jump in on this as well.
I guess to elaborate a bit further, what sort of requirements or conditions are being considered, and how have they been prioritized to best represent the different stakeholder groups? Yeah,
so currently we're entering like our alternatives analysis phase. So right now we're kind of generating how we're going to prioritize like connections, but that's why we're conducting public engagement now to kind of hear from the community on what should be the priority areas and kind of like what considerations should be taken. And based off that, we're going to weigh and combine it with what we've analyzed with previous plans and previous gaps. And based off the feedback from the community and previous plans, we're going to create like a feasibility criteria, and then the connections that we recommend in our plan at the end we'll take those into account. And again, if anyone in my group wants to elaborate on that. Did that answer your question?
Partly. So that's the condition of location. I think other conditions could be considered, such as barriers between cars and folks in the Greenway. And I'm curious if that's like a must-have requirement, or is that a nice-to-have? Like, where does that sit in the prioritization?
Yeah, so that's something that we haven't considered yet, but like safety is definitely one of the criterias, and that could be like definitely enveloped in that. So it's something that could be that falls under the safety umbrella, which we could consider.
If I could,
I have a question regarding inclusivity that I posted in the chat, but it seems to have been overlooked. This is Dr. Muslim. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
So a couple of questions. So I've lived in Jersey City for over 4 years. I agree with John's in General Square neighborhood, and it's a death sport to try to bike in Jersey City. But also, I'm a visibly Muslim woman, and I'm wondering what Muslim resources you've contacted or included for things like prayer spaces or safe spaces, or even just like when we have our 3 major holidays, parking, not get ticketing or Friday parking, things like that. I'm not sure who's exactly on the planning committees and or the board. So I'm just wondering, as far as like a roll call, as far as Islamic resources or Muslim resources or Muslim experts you've consulted, if any.
So maybe we could pass this to Jersey City.
Sure. So I can answer this. Hi, Dr. Muslim. I believe I may have emailed you earlier today, and I'm happy to continue engaging with you. We definitely would like to have the Muslim community included and participate in the process. So we can definitely work with you on ways that we can do that more effectively. In terms of some of those specifics of what's getting incorporated into the greenways, I think that level of detail is outside of the level of detail that's going into this planning. It's a little bit higher level, but we can certainly work with you, and we'll put our team's email in the chat as well if you want to follow up. But Director Manzella, myself, and Eli, and Director Wong will all happily meet with you on some of those issues.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm happy to do that, but I'm not, just like the Black people aren't supposed to be the resources as well. The Jersey City is touted as one of the most diverse in the country. And the fact that the response I got as far as an Urdu translator was that we don't have one, which is, as far as my neighborhood, Journal Square, like there's a little India here. So I don't know how that's possible. And then also, again, same thing with Muslims. So like the school across the street, I posted a link to Tanya Parker. She screamed at me, "Go back to your country," when she was blocking my driveway. So there's a rampant Islamophobia. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be a resource, but I shouldn't be expected to teach Jersey City about Islam and or Muslim holidays it's just, I feel like the onus should be on whoever's on the planning committee to make sure that's included for, again, the city that's touted as the most diverse in the country. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's something we're definitely working towards. And we welcome any feedback that you have specifically, but certainly we're always working to try to include more people in the process.
And I'll send you, and I'll put in the chat, there's an Insta and think tank similar to like a McKinsey. So my just quick background, I have an MBA, a PhD in engineering, and I'm happy to be a resource, but there's a Yaqeen Institute based out of Dallas that does a lot of published papers and resources. And so they might be a good resource. There's actually a woman from there, Dr. Susie Ismail, who's coming to speak about mental health this Saturday. So if anybody from the Jersey City Planning Committee can attend that dinner, again, I'll post it in the chat, then maybe that would be a good way to connect and have the correct resources. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, give me a fucking break.
I'm going to move on. Jess, if you could introduce the goals of the breakout session before we move into the breakout session itself.
Yes, so the goal of the breakout sessions today are for an opportunity for the public to engage. We want to hear more from you, and we'll definitely have space to do that in the breakout rooms, an opportunity to engage with the City of Jersey City and talk about more in depth about what these connections could look like. So yeah, with that in mind, we're going to introduce the breakout activity. And before we go into breakout rooms, we did want to kind of do a test run on the app that we'll be using. So the app that we'll be using is called Mirror Boards. So it's essentially a Jamboard activity. And a Jamboard activity, for those of you who are familiar or not, is a virtual whiteboard. So just like a whiteboard where people could put Post-its and collaborate together, we'll be able to kind of input things on the activity that we'll be doing shortly. So I will paste a link in the chat that you all could join as well. And I will share my screen to walk you through the mirror boards. So once you're in the mirror boards, if you could give me a thumbs up. And if not, if you're having trouble with the mirror boards, and you could definitely put on the chat any of your comments or verbally say them, and we could plot them for you. So in this test run, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the features. On the left-hand side, you'll see a navigation toolbar. For this particular activity, we're just going to be using the comment icon to your left. Other features, you could zoom in and zoom out using the toggle on the right bottom corner. And you could also use the Google map that's embedded onto the board as a reference if you wanted to. As you can see, you could also move the map, but I'm going to move it back. And yeah, so the embedded Google map could kind of give you a reference point in case the map that's on the screen is a bit hard to read when you zoom in. So for this test run, I just wanted to ask if you could all use the comment icon on your screen, and in the map, pin your favorite park in Jersey City. So I see someone adjusting the board. Thank you. So again, the prompt on the Jamboard is to zoom in to the center map and plop your favorite park in Jersey City. So I will be plopping mine, and it's Liberty Liberty State Park. Ooh, there's poster boards. There's a lot going on. As you can see, it's a very collaborative board. A little chaotic. But yeah, does everyone feel like they have a hang of the mirror boards?
Hey, unfortunately, I'm joining in through my phone.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, could I just ask for a comment to be added?
Yeah. What comment do you want added?
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So in the route that runs through Communipaw, have we considered the route running through existing business corridors in the area? For example, I found it interesting how Communipaw and Pacific Ave are existing business corridors. However, the route completely circumvents them.
Yeah. So I don't know if anyone from Jersey City wants to jump in on that.
Yeah,
question.
so this is Mike Manzella. The existing route through the Communipaw neighborhood is the historic Morris Canal Greenway. So there's been a long planning process that's been in place, actually at the regional level, to develop the Morris Canal Greenway from points in Western Jersey all the way down to the Jersey City waterfront. So that route that you see there is as close as possible to the alignment of the historic canal. However, the point of this plan and this public engagement session is to talk about ways that the neighborhoods can connect to these greenways that are either planned, under construction, or partially exist. So that's over the next, this breakout session. That's kind of what we're looking for input as we go through this process.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of activity. So this was just a test run for this question about your favorite park in Jersey City. So if you didn't get to share in the chat or on the board, again, we're going to go into breakout rooms so we could definitely share more there. So I asked that you close that mirror board. And now that we'll go into breakout rooms, we'll be using a different mirror board with different questions, but the layout would be essentially the same, and we'll be using the comment icon. If you could just please try to not shift the map, and that would make it easier for everyone to see. So with that being said, I'm going to start the breakout rooms. So just 1 second.
While you're doing that, this is Dr. Muslim again. So I was involved in the project in Atlanta. I went to Emory University for my MBA. Just so shout out to all the NYU students. Has anybody contacted, or you might have mentioned this before, I apologize for joining late. Has anybody contacted other major cities that have done greenways? And is there somebody already connecting, or is there some way I can help with that network or connection?
We haven't reached out to other cities or communities as part of the project. The NYU students did incorporate some literature review and some case studies into their research. But certainly, if you have contacts, we're always open to learning more from other cities. Sometimes we have opportunities with conferences. We saw some of the Greenway development in Boston, for example. But yeah, certainly feel free to put those in the chat or email us. That'd be great.
Yeah, and the email, is it just the same one that was in the Zoom meeting? It was something with a D. It was the NYU
yes,
email.
mobility@jcnj.org, and that will reach our whole team. Thank you.
Mobility@jcnj.org. Okay, perfect. Got it.
Thank you.
Hey, quick note to build off of Dr. Muslim's point. I biked across the country on a bike tour through Adventure Cycling Association. So if you're looking for someone who has, done the surveying experience through different cities and seeing how they've addressed the issue of green space, I'm happy to lend my experience and perspective there.
Great, thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'm about to enter into breakout rooms. So this activity will last about 30 minutes. And once you get into your breakout room, your facilitator will input a link to the Jamboard that you'll be using there. And we're going to have someone staying behind from our group in the main breakout room. So if you get bumped out, you could be placed into a breakout room again. Okay, great. See you guys soon.
All right, I believe that's everyone. I'm going to share my screen again and hand it off to Ben.
All right. Thanks everyone for participating in the Jamboard activity. It was very informative. And for those who weren't able to add comments, still adding stuff to the chat and speaking. All your comments and suggestions were fantastic. We just wanted to do a little bit of a debrief after that. So if anybody wants to speak about any key takeaways they had, if you learned something new, if there were any surprises that you found, we have some time for a few comments. And again, everybody's welcome to put stuff in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll just, this is Mike Manzella from the city. I'll just speak to just generally, I'm very thankful that everyone was able to participate. I think we had some really good conversation and discussions in our breakout session when it came to interactions between, for example, seniors who are pedestrians and bikeways, and ADA access to the bikeways. Secure bike parking came up as an area of concern, and just really really great that we had such great feedback and really engaged participants, and just want to thank everybody. That was kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know Ray commented it was a helpful exercise to make the planning committee known of their own biases, whether known or unknown. So yeah, it's good to talk about these things and get people's suggestions. Even though we're working on this stuff a lot, there's always input to be had.
Yeah, and I'm providing that comment as constructive criticism, right? Like, I'm not calling anyone out.
No, of course.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just in general, whenever you do a design or like you're exploring the solution space, it was just human nature. So thanks again, everyone, for having this session and taking the time to hear from the folks who live here.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Unless anyone else has anything to say, I'm going to conclude the workshop. I do see a comment in the chat if one of our team members could address it. But I just wanted to highlight a few things to everyone. And I'm going to put some links into the chat. And so we're going to be moving on from here. We're going to have an in-person public workshop on March 2nd. And after that, we're going to look at data analysis and assessment of potential Greenway connections. And Jersey City will release the Jersey City Greenway Connectivity Plan in late spring of 23. You can visit our project website, again at tinyurl.com/JCGCP23. You can sign up for project updates at tinyurl.com/Greenway contact. You can take our project survey at tinyurl.com/JCGCP-survey. You can contact us by email at mobility@jcnj.org. Oh, I see. Sorry, it appears twice on the slide. And you could submit a comment via tinyurl.com/JCGCP-comment. I see a question from Dawn about saving the chat. Dawn, if you pop open the chat and you go right beneath where it says type message here, there's an icon that's 3 dots. And if you click it, you should, I believe, have the option to save the chat as a text file. I believe it's a Zoom setting that can be enabled. Dawn.
Yeah, and then just generally, Dom, I think there was also another question about how this input will be sort of captured, and I think it's all of our plan, right, to sort of incorporate all the feedback that we gather from these public engagement sessions into that final report, right?
And then I see a question from Luz about whether the links were in the email invite. Unfortunately, I don't believe they were, but I can paste. But I'm providing them here now. All right, but that does conclude the virtual workshop for today. And I want to thank everyone for attending and sharing their thoughts with us. And we really do value your contributions, and we'll take them into account as we form the final Greenway connectivity plan.